Hey everyone, welcome back to Mustard Seeds. Today, we're exploring one of the greatest mysteries and miracles in human history, the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Some say it's just a story, while others believe it's the event that changed the world. But is there evidence? Can we really know it happened? In this video, we'll count down the top 5 undeniable proofs Jesus was resurrected. And trust me, number 1 will challenge even the biggest skeptic, so stay with me till the end and let's dive into the evidence. Let's kick things off with number 5, the empty tomb. This is the foundation of the resurrection story, and it's fascinating because even Jesus' critics couldn't deny it. The gospel accounts agree on one thing. Early on Sunday morning, a group of women went to Jesus' tomb, only to find it empty. Now here's what makes this remarkable. In the first century, women's testimonies weren't considered credible in a court of law. If the resurrection story were fabricated, why would the writers choose women as the first witnesses? The only reason to include this detail is that it actually happened. Even more compelling, Jewish and Roman authorities never produced a body to disprove the resurrection. Instead, they claimed the disciples stole the body. But let's think about that. The tomb was guarded by trained Roman soldiers, men who would face severe punishment for failing their duty. Would a ragtag group of terrified disciples risk their lives to steal the body, especially when they had nothing to gain? Historians across the board, whether Christian, atheist, or agnostic, agree on one fact. The tomb was empty. The real question is, how did it get that way? Number 4, Eyewitness Testimonies. At number 4, we have the overwhelming eyewitness testimony. After his resurrection, Jesus didn't just vanish into heaven, he appeared to people, and not just one or two individuals. According to 1 Corinthians 15:3-8, Jesus appeared to more than 500 people over 40 days. Let's pause on that number, 500 witnesses. Imagine something incredible happened in your town, and 500 people all saw it and told the same story. Would you believe them? That's essentially what happened here. And Paul, who wrote this account, challenges his readers by saying, most of these witnesses are still alive. In other words, if you don't believe me, go ask them. These weren't vague spiritual experiences either. People physically interacted with Jesus. Thomas, for example, doubted until he touched Jesus' wounds himself. Jesus even ate with his disciples, proving he wasn't a ghost or vision. Eyewitness accounts are the backbone of historical evidence, and the sheer number here is staggering. Number 3 on our list is the incredible transformation of the disciples. After Jesus' crucifixion, they were utterly devastated. Their leader was dead, and they feared they might be next. Peter, one of Jesus' closest friends, denied him 3 times to avoid being arrested. But something happened that turned this fearful group into bold preachers who spread Christianity across the Roman Empire. Peter went from denying Jesus to standing in front of thousands at Pentecost, declaring that Jesus had risen. He even faced crucifixion for his faith. And tradition says he asked to be crucified upside down because he didn't feel worthy to die the same way as Jesus. Let's not forget the other disciples. Almost all of them were martyred. John was exiled, Andrew was crucified, and Thomas was speared in India. People don't willingly die for something they know is a lie. Their courage only makes sense if they truly believed they had seen the risen Jesus. At number 2, we have the rapid and unstoppable growth of the early church. Think about it, Jesus was executed as a criminal, his followers were a small, powerless group, and the Roman Empire was hostile to their message. Yet, within a few decades, Christianity spread like wildfire. What's remarkable is that this growth wasn't fueled by wealth, military power, or political influence. It was driven by a simple message: Jesus had risen from the dead. Early Christians faced intense persecution, being thrown to lions, burned alive, and tortured. Yet they remained steadfast, even joyful, because they believed the resurrection guaranteed eternal life. This kind of movement doesn't happen without something extraordinary at its core. People don't risk everything for a dead leader. The resurrection was the spark that ignited a movement that still impacts the world today. And finally, the number 1 proof, the dramatic conversion of skeptics. Let's talk about 2 key figures, James, the brother of Jesus, and Saul of Tarsus, later known as the Apostle Paul. First, James. During Jesus' ministry, James wasn't a believer. He thought his brother was out of his mind. But after the resurrection, James became a leader in the early church and was eventually martyred for his faith. What could have caused such a radical change? He saw the risen Jesus. And then there's Paul. He wasn't just indifferent to Christianity, he was its biggest enemy. Paul actively hunted Christians, imprisoning and even killing them. But everything changed when he encountered Jesus on the road to Damascus. This wasn't a dream or a hallucination, it was a life-changing event. Paul went on to write much of the New Testament, endure countless hardships, and eventually be executed for his faith. These dramatic transformations are hard to explain unless something extraordinary happened, like the resurrection. There you have it, the top 5 undeniable proofs of Jesus' resurrection. The empty tomb, eyewitness testimonies, the transformation of the disciples, the explosion of the early church, and the conversion of skeptics. These aren't just legends, they're rooted in history and supported by evidence. But the question is, what do you believe? Do these proofs convince you, or do you have more questions? Let's continue the conversation in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If this video challenged or inspired you, hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear this. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, keep seeking truth.